Hi guys, Mike and Ricky here, and this week we are talking about Ahsoka Episode 6. Michael, how are you doing, sir? Michael.
Oh, sorry about that. I was texting a buddy of mine.
Doing some distracted podcasting there?
Well, no, it was just a buddy of mine's been having some issues. He's over the summer, he does actually, of all places, he's up in Antarctica. And so he does work over there over the summertime. And so we chat sometime, and he chatted me earlier today, and he was telling me that he was having some issues with, with his windows. It keep freezing up, and he couldn't open, his windows. And so I told him, I said, well, I text back and I said, well, just gently get some pour lukewarm water, just kind of put it over it, gently tap the edges of it, because usually that's what we do when it's cold here. You want to be careful doing that. Well, he just texted me back saying that his computer's really messed up now. And so not for sure what happened there.
It's the Speaking Nerdy podcast with your host, Mr. Mike Schilling.
And my good friend and compadre, Mr. Ricky Poe.
Here's a quick message from our friends at Tatooine Sons.
Hey, nerds, this is David with Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast. We believe that pop culture is the mythology of our generation. There is a story, it is written on our souls, and that all of these myths speak to that story. And that is why every Tuesday I talk about Star Wars and Marvel and DC and Lord of the Rings and whatever nerdy things we can think of with my two sons, Sam and Nate. It is a 30 to 45 minute celebration of all the weirdness that we love so much. Basically, Mom said we couldn't talk about it at the kitchen table anymore, so we decided to start a podcast. We hope you'll check it out. It's on every podcast app out there. Tatooine Sons. That's Tatooine SONS.
Lovely. But for those on the audio podcast listening right now, I'm enjoying a very fine beverage.
Enjoying a warm beverage?
Actually, it's a cold beverage.
Oh, it's a cold beverage. Okay.
Yes. It's our sponsor.
It's our sponsor?
Yes.
Okay.
We call it H2O.
I was gonna say I didn't know. I didn't know back to go was could be drunk.
I know. I can't find that anymore. I don't know what happened to my back to go Photoshop, but anyway, it was really popular during the Book of Boba Fett. But anyhow. But speaking of Book of Boba Fett, we are in the Star Wars arena, galaxy far, far away. And that's right. We're going to talk about Ahsoka episode 6. And man, it was good.
It was a good episode. It was interesting episode.
Yes, it was. I have so much to say about it. Say about it.
There were things that surprised me and things that this was interesting.
Yeah,
maybe we should give our spoiler alert now.
I think
so if you haven't watched Ahsoka episode 6,
that's right,
definitely just pause this and go watch it and then come back.
Watch it.
Now we are going to do some nerdy news and some stupid news before we get into it, but but just know this is your spoiler warning.
So anyway, yes. So I'm excited. A lot to talk about.
Yep.
Man, we're going to get a great show tonight. But before we do all of that, we have something we like to call Nerdy Happenings of the Week.
It's time for the Nerdy Happenings of the Week.
Man, that's
He has a great voice.
He does. I can imagine him in a leisure suit just on the dance floor. That's what I can imagine.
Absolutely. Powder blue leisure suit with the big collar.
Mhm.
Well,
Love it.
box office news this week. And The Nun 2 once again took the box office, adding an additional $14.7 million. So we're still pretty low on box office numbers in general. But close on its heels this week was a new release from Disney called A Haunting in Venice. And it came in at $14.5 million. Now, are you familiar with The Haunting in Venice?
I'm not.
Okay. So I said it was Disney, which a lot of people might not have known. It's called The Haunting in Venice. And of all things, it's actually the third in a series of movies starring Hercule Poirot. Not starring, but that's the
Okay.
character.
I've seen the trailer, so I've seen.
You've watched. You've heard of Murder on the Orient Express and
Yes.
and Death on the Nile. Well, this is
Yes.
actually the third movie in that series.
Really?
Yes,
Okay.
and based on another Agatha Christie movie or another Agatha Christie book, and
Yeah.
apparently, just looking at the synopsis of both, very, very loosely based on a book called Halloween Party. And it's like not set in Venice in the book, and
Okay.
it's and the person that dies is different, and why they died is different. Like if you read this book, which I think probably most people haven't, if you read this book and then you watch this movie, you would go, okay, the names are similar. That's about it.
That's about it.
But that came in second place, just barely. I mean, it could have teetered either way. Honestly, it was only $200,000 dividing first place and second place. Third and fourth were The Equalizer 3 and My Big Fat Greek Wedding. And Barbie is clinging to fifth place still.
She just will not die, will she?
She will not die.
No.
So in speaking of Disney, Loki season 2, you and I are both excited about this.
Yes, we are.
They did have a date change. It's going to come out a day earlier than originally scheduled. It's going to be releasing. You know how Ahsoka, they always said it was going to be a Wednesday release, but then at the last minute they released it Tuesday evening before. Well, they're going to do the same thing with Loki. It's going to be on a Thursday night. It'll be, I think it's 9 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. Pacific. I think those are the right times, which puts at 8 p.m. Central Time, our time. So that will come out on October 5th.
Which is a Thursday.
Which will be a Thursday. Yes.
Okay.
So Thursday evening, you can watch the show. So just so that you know, before you hit the internet on Friday morning, if you didn't bother watching it on Thursday, there will be spoilers galore on social media.
That's the truth. That's the truth. That's what we do best.
Bad enough. Honestly, it was bad enough when it was released at midnight.
Oh, I know.
And
the very next day
would stay up all night to watch it and then write and record their thoughts and try to get those out by 8 a.m. or noon. Well, now they've got like 4 extra hours.
Yeah, we're not that
to make it happen. Yeah, we're not that dedicated.
I mean, if you pay us the money, then we'll do it. But at this point, this is for nothing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if we decide to do a week by week of Loki, we're gonna be doing a week behind. There's just no way. Speaking of things that are based around our recording, we actually record this on Wednesdays. We try to get it out by Friday morning. As of this recording, the studio CEOs and the Writers Guild of America are meeting to try to make to try to resolve the strike.
Mm-hmm.
And as of the latest I see is people are saying that it was an encouraging session.
That's good.
So, they plan on continuing talks on Thursday. So that's a good sign.
It's a good
Now,
sign.
the one thing that's not there is we're not hearing about talks with the actors. So
See,
I'm
that's a big thing.
curious.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see, is this one of those we want to get the writers done first because they went on strike first, or we want to have the writers agreement first because that way the writers can start writing while we work with the actors to try to settle things,
Mhm.
or if this is just we think it'll be easier. But
I don't know. Who knows? I don't know.
yeah, the big deal I think for what happened today is that four of the big studio CEOs were
Yeah.
actually in attendance at the meeting.
That's a big
Uh,
deal.
yeah, because
That's a big deal.
usually it is just like the union, the union delegation people,
Hmm.
and then it's lawyery people from the other side.
Yeah.
It's really lawyery people from both sides.
Yeah. Exactly.
But it was interesting that CEOs showed up. So like Iger was there, the CEOs from Warner Brothers, the CEO from Warner Brothers was there, Netflix and NBC.
Oh,
So
Netflix too, huh?
yeah, so
That's a good sign, having somebody from a streaming service there.
yeah, I
From
agree.
streaming. Yeah.
And speaking of things with lawyers, man,
Yeah.
I've got all like the
Man,
segues
getting
going
all
here.
man, what's going on?
George R. Martin and other authors have filed a class action lawsuit against OpenAI.
Ooh.
So,
Oh my.
if you're not super familiar with OpenAI, it is an artificial intelligence, what they call a large language model, an LLM, and you can ask it all sorts of questions, and it will give you a response
Yes, it
that
will.
most of the time is accurate. Most of the time,
Most of the time.
it will lie. Um,
Are
I've
you
actually
sure?
been well,
You sure
yeah.
about that?
It
I
depends
don't
on
know.
what you call a
Lie.
lie or not.
What's
I've
hmm.
actually been listening to a lot of podcasts about artificial intelligence,
Yes.
and I slightly understand better how the process works, and it's not what most people would think. And it is a huge prediction model, and I don't
Hmm.
want to get into the weeds because even it's hard for me to grasp hold of. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't actually understand what you're asking, and it
Yes.
doesn't actually understand what it's outputting.
Hmm.
And that's
I know
part of the
people like
reason.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of the reason
Yeah.
it can give you answers that sound completely plausible, but
Hmm.
are completely wrong.
Exactly right.
The path to robot heaven lies here in the Good Book 3.0.
That's right.
So why are these authors suing OpenAI?
Yeah.
OpenAI is very open about the fact that they used, because it's a large language model, it
Yeah.
used a lot of text, a lot of internet, a lot of
Hmm.
downloadable text in order to train the model. And
Yeah.
well, these authors are saying you used our content,
Hmm.
train your model, and we should be compensated for that for that use, because that wouldn't fall. Basically, they're saying that wouldn't fall under fair use. You didn't
Hmm.
use a portion; you used huge chunks or all of our
Yeah.
book or
Yeah.
our books. Multiple. Um, so that could be a big thing, and depending on how, like, if this lawsuit goes through,
Oh, it sets the precedence of everything else.
the
Social
implications for
media.
every
Uh,
single AI, because Google has one, OpenAI is its own thing,
Microsoft has his own
Microsoft
thing now
has
too.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody has one,
Yeah.
and like you mentioned, social media. Um, they let the language model crawl the internet. Well,
Mm-hmm.
some of them did. Allowed the model to crawl the internet to gather information.
Yeah.
Well, if it looks at like Quorum, or it looks at Twitter, or it looks at Facebook, and gathers information, well, it's possible that information technically belongs to those other, those social media companies. Um, and I mean, we put content into a social media product,
Yeah.
and there's a big question of whether we still own it or not. And whether we have the sole rights to it. We've
Yes.
basically given them rights to it. It's
Yeah.
possible
Basically,
they
I
have
mean,
the rights to then make money on it.
oh
If they
yeah.
have rights to make money on it, then they have the right to sue OpenAI for using it under their language model.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how this is going to fall out, but I am fascinated, and I want to see what happens.
Oh, I do too. I think it's really fascinating. This is a new frontier. I mean, I would never thought in the past, I don't know, past 5 years that actually any human being, any person, Joe Smo could just go ahead and have access to something like this,
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. And, there's the big, academic, you know,
Yeah.
plagiarism. You have, the actors that are, is it going to replace writers, and
Yeah.
then some of the stuff that comes up. I did a thing one time in Chat GPT just for fun. I basically did a cross pollination of Breaking Bad and Toy Story, and it did an entire story for me. Unfortunately, Woody OD'd at the end, but but yeah, I mean it. You take stories even like that and bring them together, and if you post them out there, it's like, okay, well, there's content in there that doesn't belong to you, and where did you get that content from?
Yep.
Because the
It's
AI has to pull
interesting.
it from somewhere.
Right. And that's the
Yeah.
big thing. If you and I write a fan fiction,
Yeah.
there's some questionability about the legality of that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
but nobody's probably going to come after us.
No.
Um, but if a device that has been trained
Mm-hmm.
using the using that intellectual property, they could have a legitimate case. Now, my big question comes into, this is another question. How does that affect Google search engine? Because
Yeah.
Google search engine, it crawls the internet, and it holds information based on individual websites, and it's how we find stuff. That could impact Google.
It's a pretty big rabbit hole. I mean, it you can really. I mean, it's going to get to the point. I mean, you're going to have all these lawsuits coming out of the woodworks if this gets any light of day.
Yes,
This uh,
that's going to be the big key. Is a judge going to hear it?
yeah,
If a judge hears it, how far up the chain is it going to go? Because
yeah, exactly.
this will probably go to the Supreme Court if it gets a hearing at all.
Yeah, I don't, no doubt
Yeah,
of that.
yeah, crazy stuff. I think that's all I have on nerdy news. Do you have anything?
I don't have anything. I mean, there's some stuff out there in the gaming industry, but just a lot of rumors about mid-gen of Xbox, coming out with a kind of
Okay.
a new kind of a mid. Usually about this time of year, you see some of the console makers, they will come out and do like for instance, in the last cycle, we had the PS4, and then you have the PS4 Pro, which had a few
Oh yeah,
upgrades in
yeah,
it.
yeah.
And so we're kind of seeing that coming in the cycle. But right now, it's a lot of rumors. But you have people like, GameSpot and ING, or no, not ING, they don't care, IGN.
Oh
And
yeah.
so a lot of these people are kind of reporting on it. So anyway, if you're gamers out there, there's supposed to be something coming out. As far as I know, it's the same price. Also, one of the head of Microsoft's gaming division, the guy is head of the gaming permission. I can't remember his name, but he had an email that was linked that he was interested in buying Nintendo, which
Wow.
I don't see. I mean, Microsoft now has Bethesda, Blizzard, writes the call, Activision, which that's part of that whole umbrella. I really doubt that will happen, but it's
that sounds a little bit like Disney selling Marvel to Apple. I just don't see it happening.
Well, what was the news? Okay, what was the news? Alan Barron, you sent me a text the other day, and it was Byron. That's right. Byron was thinking about wanting to buy ABC from Disney.
Byron Allen.
Yes.
So that is part of this whole thing. It's like, is Disney going to sell off things to Apple? Probably not. The Barry Allen thing, or not Barry Allen, the Byron Allen thing.
Yeah.
It sounds like Byron Allen is interested, and I think it's ESPN and ABC. It's that whole business.
Thing,
yeah. He's interested, but Bob Iger has never said we're selling. So if you read into the article, it's a little like, okay, is this a thing, or is this just Byron Allen is like dropping hints that he wants something?
Okay.
And it's a little unclear.
Gotcha.
But the best I can find, Bob Iger says he is open to discuss anything, but nothing is actively for sale.
Gotcha.
So
that's a nice way of putting it, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Bob Iger's he's a businessman. He's in this for the money. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah.
If he sees the right dollar signs, anything is possible.
That's right. Not us. We do this for free and charity.
Well, we do it for free. I don't know about charity.
No, we do it for free
because we're forced for free because we can't
get anybody to pay
us.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's all I have. Anything else?
That's all you have? I have nothing else. And let's close this and let's do it.
And that's all for the nerdy happenings of the week.
Well, I guess we're going to go right to let's do some stupid news.
Let's do it. It's the weird and stupid news with your host, Mr. Mike Schilling.
Well, folks, it's bad enough when I'm on the highway and people in the car and behind me flipping me the bird. It's bad enough when you got human beings do it. Well, public works officials in Houston said they do not know how an electronic construction sign came up with a display of profane messages. That's right. That's right.
Wait, what did that say?
That's right. Drivers passing by the corner of Montrose and Westheimer captured photos Monday of an electronic sign bearing an unusual message from commuters. Says, due to weather, the sign first message reads, before switching to a message reading, go blank yourself. That's right. Witnesses to the sign displayed the message 4 hours before shut off by city inspectors. Houston Public Works said it does not operate the sign, and officials are still trying to identify the owner. Public Works Employee said that the part of the sign that controls the message is locked inside the attached box, indicating the person responsible for the message either has clearance to unlock the box or has enough experience with the equipment to know how to open it without being granted access. It's
So,
like it's yeah,
so I'm guessing, just my guess,
yeah,
either somebody just hacked in, some
yeah,
nefarious, this will be funny kind of guy,
yeah, yeah.
or somebody got fired and was like, all right, well, I'll fix you.
Well, like I said earlier, I mean, it's bad enough I get the finger from other drivers, but now a traffic sign? I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness.
That's too much. But for the rest of the story, I guess I stole that from somebody else. But also the latest trend on TikTok. We love talking about the latest trends on TikTok.
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
yes, so the latest trend on TikTok involves parents cracking eggs on their kids' heads.
Oh my gosh, I've seen this. This is hysterical.
That's right. But doctors have raised concern about this.
I wondered where this was going. I was like, it's pretty funny. Have you ever seen the kids' reactions?
Oh,
Have you
some of the
watched
reaction.
some of the videos?
I have
Oh
not.
my gosh. My favorite one. Okay, so before you go into doctors have raised concerns, my favorite one is because they give the kid an egg, and then the mom has an egg, and the mom goes smacks him right in the head. My favorite one is this little girl, and she just looks at her mom like so sad, and then she just kind of grins for a second, and then she smacks her mom in the face with an egg.
I mean, it's a good bonding experience between parental and.
I mean, this is not new. I mean, the egg thing might be new.
No.
I mean, like, what was it, a year ago? It was throwing cheese slices on your kid's head.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
I unfortunately I didn't, but I'm pro saving cheese, but
people are so weird.
People are weird. And I mean, I remember the Gorilla Glue incident. I remember
yes.
That was a good one. I remember farts in a jar. Let's see, there were some other ones that we also came across too, where that's right, people were cooking their chicken in Listerine. I mean, all that kind of good stuff. So, I mean, there's great, so a lot of educational stuff out there. But in these videos, parents often use the hashtag egg prank, and can be seen in their kitchens with their young child, like you're talking about. They take the raw egg, and instead of cracking it into a pan or a bowl, they crack it on their children's head before pouring it in a container. Okay, now these videos has become really popular, like we've talked about, even though some kids end up crying or looking very upset.
Yes.
In a few cases, the child throws the egg back at the parent. So, but by Thursday, I guess it's been going on here recently again. These videos had more than 670 million views.
I believe it.
Wish we had that. And some had as many as 6 million views each. However, doctors are worried now. The doctors are concerned. Medical profession is worried. Of course they are. However, doctors are worried that this prank might have harmful effects.
Okay.
It said it could cause bruises. Okay. I
can see that. That's legit.
On the, on the child's head, or spread germs. That's the main thing, is the germ.
Okay. Salmonella.
Yes, right. Dr. Megan Martin, a doctor at the Children's Hospital in Florida, said she says that she dislikes this trend. She thinks it doesn't help the kids and isn't entertaining. She said, we're basically putting germs on their foreheads. If a toddler gets sick from this, they might have to go to the hospital to get fluids through a tube. But that's kind of a downer, isn't it? That's kind of extreme. A little heavy. Man. Wow. Man,
that makes me not want to go eat raw cookie dough out of the fridge.
Man. Then there's Amanda Mathers, who tried the prank herself, said it was tough to crack an egg on her head. And even though she has a fully grown skull, she says she almost felt like crying when she did it. That's a hard egg. You sure it's not
That is
hard?
a hard egg.
But Rebecca Berger Chaplin, who works with kids and families in the hospital in New York, says that doing this prank once probably won't cause any long-term problems for your child. That's good to know. So while TikTok ectastic trend, yes, I said ectastic trend, might have you cracking up, safety and well-being always comes first, even when humor's on the menu. So before you embark on this extraordinary, anyways,
Yeah.
think twice. I mean, seriously, think about it. It's either yokes or jokes, baby. Yokes or jokes. And that's stupid news.
This has been the Weird and Stupid News with your host, Mr. Mike Schilling.
Isn't that something?
People are crazy.
People are crazy.
Let's be honest. You and I did things that were dumb when we were young.
Yeah, I mean, it's true.
But we didn't, film it and show it to the world.
Because we really didn't have the opportunity.
True. That's true.
I mean,
let's be honest. Yeah, okay.
I mean, I didn't have
probably
the
right.
opportunity. I mean, I think we probably...
You're probably right. If there had been social media in the 70s and 80s, it would be on there.
That's right. It'd be amazing if we had social media back then. You think about it. I mean, where would we be now? In jail? I don't know. So tonight we are talking about Ahsoka episode 6, which is Far, Far and Away.
Far, Far Away, which is a fitting name. And, it's Star Wars, so Far, Far Away. And we even get the quote in the show, which is kind of weird and
isn't it?
It was when
Can you tell me the story?
He set it up, and I was like, he's going to say in a galaxy far, far away, and he sure enough he did.
We'll just say really. Well, we talked about it last week. We talked about so we were talking. Last week was Ahsoka, and and Anakin. So we know that this week we talked about how it's going to be, Balin, Shin, Morgan, Sabine, and Hope, and if we're going to do anything, we're going to have a lot of hopefully of Thrawn and surprise Ezra. I was kind of surprised we saw both in the same episode. I
was too. I really thought we might get one or the other, but I wasn't sure we were going to get both. It's nice that, that's part 6. They both showed up. So we got 2 more episodes for them to be active in.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm pleasantly surprised. And
that's good.
I feel like at this point we've got 2 more episodes. We might actually wrap up a story, maybe.
Might. If you just noticed that there was kind of a bleep, the magic of video editing allowed me to go pee-pee in the potty. So there you go. Isn't that wonderful?
Oh my gosh.
Maybe this was the part we should have edited out. But anyway, so back to what we were saying. Far, Far and Away.
Yes.
So that was interesting to have Far, Far Away. We were talking about how, we're pretty, I'm surprised that Ezra showed up in this episode.
I was too.
So we have some new creatures. We have new aliens, which is kind of cool.
I'm super hyped about the tiny little the Ninja Turtles showing
they
up.
They are Ninja. Yes, Ninja Turtles. They're kind of the nomad Ninja Turtles. What do they call them? I think the Naughties. Naughties.
Well, that's the language they're speaking.
Yes,
but I'm unclear as to whether that's what they're called. I
Yeah,
didn't
because they
look it
have.
up.
That's right, because their version of the Sand People were out there too, and they spoke the
Yeah,
same thing. So
yeah. So it's
that's
unclear exactly what
interesting.
they're. And then there was her mount,
Oh,
which
it's a howler. That's
yes,
the name. It's
which
a howler.
I saw them when there was a wide shot of the that spire, that castle
Yeah,
looking thing, and there were like three of them off to the side, and they were kind of, had their heads up
yeah.
like they were howling. And for a brief moment, I thought maybe they were the wolves from the Rebel series,
Oh, yes, I know you're talking about. Yeah.
but it
No,
appears
not
no.
yeah, not on this planet of it's Peridia. That's
Yeah,
what I'm going to call it
Iridia.
anyway. But
Yep.
they have brought in the witches from Rebels, and also the
Yeah.
same witches from the Clone War animated series, the Great
Yes.
Mothers, which is the group of witches, um, which is really cool because this is a lot of this kind of stuff from the Darthmore, from these witches, which
Yeah.
kind of you have the Force, and then you have this dark magic among
With a
these
K.
yes, with a K, which is interesting. Yes, almost
Yep.
reminds me of the of those cards, the role playing cards, magic, they
Yes.
but
Well, and so apparently they are able to communicate over long distances.
yeah,
So that's kind of an interesting thing. Um,
they
Forced or not, a little
yeah,
unclear to me.
been
I
very
think from things I
unclear.
read that it's kind of a version of the Force that they have, but they've
Yeah.
got some interesting skills.
It's, I guess we have now confirmed that Sabine is force fan sensitive because the
Yes,
witches pretty much say, she reeks
of
of Jedi.
Jedi. Yes.
So that, I guess that answers it because they would
I
know.
think so. I think that is a definitive answer.
Yeah, I agree.
I think she has simply blocked all that part of her abilities off,
Hmm.
or just hasn't been trained long enough yet.
Yeah.
That's kind of an open question, but
Well, who
I
said
do
she
think
was
at
the
this
worst
point,
Jedi ever?
yeah, exactly.
Who said
Well,
she was the worst?
but
Yeah.
when Hu Yang said that, we all
Yeah.
thought that maybe that meant she really wasn't a Jedi.
Well,
That
he's
she wasn't really force sensitive.
that's just his personality. He probably would have said
I
that
think
to
so.
any. Yeah.
I
So
think so too.
yeah, it's just I really like that character. By the way, I think
Speaking of,
I know which
there's
one you're talking about.
a picture of Hu Yang and
Ahsoka,
Ahsoka in the ship, chilling in a whale.
which was like
And
it was like what, just the first 5 minutes of
oh
the
yeah,
episode.
super early in the
So
episode.
yeah,
And I did think like this shot of the whales traveling through hyperspace was super
yeah.
cool.
Oh, I
And
love that. Yeah.
and I love that Hu Yang calls them space whales. I mean,
Yes.
he just straight up calls them space whales. He doesn't call them Purgle. He doesn't,
Well, Thrawn did the same thing.
yeah. That's
The
true.
first, so Thrawn, yeah. So
I think I like that they,
yeah, I do too.
just suck it up and say what they're space whales.
Yeah, I mean, I totally, yes, exactly. They're space whales. That's what they do, right?
So speaking of space whales, interesting when they arrive at this planet, they basically say this is where the space whales go to die. So this
Yeah,
is like the elephant graveyard
graveyard.
for space whales,
Yeah, I
which
mean, you
is
see,
that's an
yeah,
interesting idea.
it is interesting. It's because well, and then they show up in the orbit of space is where you see all the you
Yeah.
see all the bones, and I mean, it's the huge
Yeah,
rib cages of the
I
whales
saw
and
I
stuff.
saw the
So
planet and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. It has rings." And then
yeah,
you get a little closer and you realize,
closer.
no, those are whale carcasses.
Apparently, the witches or the Darth Maul witches, they or I guess they calls them the sisters.
The
There's the
their mothers.
yeah, some, but there's a name for the entire group, and it's something about the
Oh,
sisters of the Yaya
Dathomir.
sisterhood, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, but anyway, they you know apparently from the beginning, when they were the ones who were able to harness this, ride the whales, and
Yes,
I thought that was
the
interesting
first
that
to
they,
ride the whales,
yes,
which
exactly.
is definitely a weird Dune reference to sandworms riding
Oh yes,
sandworms.
I forgot about
I,
that.
I mean, there were so many when they first came up. There were so many. There were some memes about riding the whales like sandworms, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I don't think that'll be a thing." Oh, it's a thing.
Night Sisters, that is the name
Night
I was
Sisters,
looking for.
yes.
Night Sisters. Yeah, it's very, yeah. And if you don't know much about the Night Sisters, there's entire, check out Rebels, and they're awesome, mainly in the Rebels, and they were the reason why Darth Maul was Darth Maul in the first place. So
Yeah, well,
anyway,
and they brought him back to life. Is that right?
yes, that's right. Yeah, it's there's a lot here that you can see some type of shadows of stuff that may come up in the sequels. There's a lot going on,
Mm,
and we can learn they, Balin, we all
yeah,
know, Balin. They've given him more depth in this episode. I mean, there's a lot going
yeah,
on, but you see this greater, you see Balin really opening up to his apprentice, and
yes,
he talks about, she asks some questions, for one, do you miss being part
yeah,
of the Jedi Order? And he says, I like the idea but not the weakness.
yeah,
And so there's, and he talks about how he remembers the, of course, we all know this in the Revenge of the Sith, where the temple
hmm
was on fire,
right,
being annihilated by the, by the Empire, or
yep,
at that time, um, Anakin,
yep,
because, checking up on the kids. So, but yeah, I mean, but it's interesting later on, and the biggest thing, and we try to figure out what is the main focus for you for this show. For every
yeah,
episode, we try what is the main part of the show, and there's really a whole lot there.
yeah,
We find out that Balin was a general in the
yep.
Jedi Order, and so you can, and so when the order fell,
He presumably fought in the Clone Wars.
yeah, so that's, yeah, he had to, if he was a
Yep,
general, because
yep.
Jedis were only generals during the
Oh,
Clone
true.
Wars.
You're right. That's true.
Yeah, so there was no military. I mean, because the Jedis were peacekeepers,
Yeah.
and it was only because of the Clone Wars that they got involved in the fight for the Republic. And there you go. They
hmm
had different rankings, and most of the
Yep.
Jedis were generals, and they usually would have like clone commanders that would be underneath them, that
hmm
would, lead the clone troops on the behalf of the Jedi general. So yeah, so there's a lot. Balin really shares a lot to Shin, and he talked about how he watched the Jedi Temple burned.
hmm
And Shin asked him how old he was, and of course, he was about Shin's age at the time, so
Yeah.
he was probably in
He
his
says just a
20s,
little older.
a
So,
little
yeah.
older, so maybe, and he talks about, why are we here?
Yeah.
And he talks about how he's being, he can hear voices. It's drawing him here.
Yes.
And and a lot of us, we think about, is this leading to Palpatine? The rise of Palpatine.
Yeah.
Does this have something to do with, you know, writing in the sequels? The Star
Mhm.
Wars sequels. So I don't know. Do you have any? when he talks about that, does anything come to mind? Because he's very confident that there's a power there, and
Yes.
and Thrawn, as far as he concerned, they can stay there. He
Yeah.
has no, he doesn't care whether they make it back or not. Apparently, he's not a really big fan of Jedi's anyhow, and
I
so
I don't think we're seeing um I don't think this is going to revolve around the Emperor. I don't feel like that's where this part is headed. Balin seems to be after something else because he
yeah,
talks about that history repeating itself. You know,
yeah,
the empire falls, and then the you know the the rebels win, and the empire falls, and then the empire wins, and it just goes back and forth and back and forth. Um, but he wants to end all that,
yeah,
and the emperor would be empire. The emperor
yeah.
would be the end all and be all of the empire. And I don't know that he thinks that the empire is the right solution either.
Hmm.
I think he feels something else,
There's a greater
something
power.
greater power. I'm not sure what it is, but it's something, it's a third thing, but
I
I'm
think
not sure what it is.
it's interesting because I don't know what's going on with Shin. I don't know if she's in the back of her mind. She's conflicted about some things because her master, we
Mhm.
guaranteed that Sabine would
Yeah,
not be harmed. And of course, we were going to come up to Thrawn, but she was allowed to go after Ezra,
right,
and she took off after Ezra. But Thrawn then sends out the mercenaries to go kill them,
right,
and so Shin makes a reference to her master and says, "Are you going to renege on your promise?" And Thrawn says, "No, we're not reneging on the promise. You will go be able to see Ezra, but when you find them, you will kill them both." So and
yeah,
that's Thrawn. That's typical Thrawn and how he strategizes and how he
yeah,
thinks. But does that, and I have kind of a feeling that Balin has a conflict with that in his mind because I think, I do think Balin's word is important to him. I have this feeling. I don't think he's this nasty baddie that just tries to trick people. I don't. I think he believes what he's doing. He believes in the means of going about it, but I think there's a part of him that still holds on to some kind of honor,
mm.
and so and I
I I think so. And I think it is. I think it all revolves around this idea that there's a third thing, and
yeah,
that's what Balin is searching for.
yeah,
And all of these people are simply a means to an end for
yes,
Balin, good, bad, or indifferent. If they get me closer to the thing I'm looking for,
yeah.
then I'm on their side,
Well,
which
I
could
think
mean
yeah,
Balin and I don't think Shin is that way. I think
no,
Shin she has kind of bought into the Empire
yes,
returning. She's and I think honestly she thought that was what her master was doing.
exactly.
I think she is confused as well with
Yes,
that idea.
yeah,
It's like, well, I thought we were here because of the Empire, because of
yeah,
Thrawn, and Balin's like, oh yeah, that's a sideline for me.
yeah,
I, there's a, I have a bigger fish to fry.
yeah,
I just don't know what it is, and I don't know how he can find it in the next two episodes.
yeah.
And I'm super sad that he passed away because if they don't kill him off in the next two episodes,
How are they gonna? Yeah,
how are they going to continue his story? That honestly, he's the one I want to see. I want to see the rest of his story more than I want to see the rest of Sabine's story or Ahsoka's story.
Well, I totally agree with that. I mean, he's a fascinating character. He's a new character. He's a character that
Yep.
we've never heard of before.
Yep.
And you know, the actor is, he's, I mean, he's just a superb actor.
Oh,
And again,
absolutely.
it's like, again, it's a tragedy. I can't talk. That he's not with us anymore, just as a human being and an actor.
Yeah.
And this, I would really love to see this character become in full fruition and see where they're going with this character, because there's a lot of depth to this character, and
Absolutely.
and I think there's if the actor was still alive, I could see a redemptive story in this, because I think he truly still has these fond memories of when the meaning of the Jedi Order and what it was supposed to be in spirit.
Yeah.
And I do believe, like you said, I think that, he's fed up with the cycle of power between Jedis and empires. And then even the witches, this cycle of gaining power and then losing power and gaining power, and this constant cycle of that. And he's looking for something that's just, I don't know if it's omnipotent. I don't know, something that's greater that basically will just end all of that.
Yeah.
And, it's so that's fascinating. And again, I think Shin is very confused. You can tell during these scenes that she's trying to figure it out. She's asking her master questions, and and I thought it was interesting. She was taught. He made a comment. She made a comment about how he was about Ahsoka, and about how she was trained at a Jedi. And she said, "As me," and I said, "No, I trained you for something better." And so it's almost like he has this disdain for anything that's classified as a Jedi. He said, "You're not a Jedi," and I don't even think he would consider himself a Sith. I mean,
no, I think he's something other.
Yes, I agree.
Now, we've talked a lot about that, but I think we should look at some of the other things that are going on. So, the minute you saw the Star Destroyer, you knew we were going to get there. But before we get to, the big reveal, we have a new character. This
That's
Enoch.
Right. Enoch.
Who is a stormtrooper of some sort. And these stormtroopers are, man, they have been brutalized, and they are held together with baling wire and duct tape.
It's, I have a theory about all of this, and I don't know if it's something that I have a theory. I think they're the army of the dead. I think that they are, Thrawn talked about how, his forces, his resources has, dwindled.
Yeah.
Yes, has dwindled since they've been on that and on exile. And I think it's fascinating. You see the cracks in the armor. They're wearing these red ribbons, which kind of reminiscence of the sisters, of the, the Night Sisters. That he's kind of been in this alliance with, the great mothers of the Night Sister, and even, ask for their help and their magic. And, you see several things in here. It almost like, they make a reference to him as the night stormtroopers. And, and then you also see in a scene where constantly they're almost these boxes, which after a while look like coffins.
Yes, I was actually going to bring that up. They say, I don't have a good photo of them, but they make a comment that it's going to take a while to get. Here's a picture of them. It's going to take a while to get all of these things loaded. They do look suspiciously like coffins. So it's interesting that you think maybe the stormtroopers, the night troopers,
Yeah.
are already undead. Um,
Yeah.
I had seen some people speculating that those quote unquote coffins hold the dead that the
Yeah.
Night Sisters would then revive.
Yes.
So, but the idea that the night troopers are already the undead, that's an
Yeah.
interesting. That's interesting, and I can buy it. I can
Well,
buy that.
look at Enoch. His part of his mask has this gold and this
Yeah.
insignia of the Night Sisters. It's very reminiscent of that, especially if you think about some of the statues that you saw across the
Mhm.
planet. The face is very reminiscent
Yep.
of that, and so you know, I and you know
I just
the
hope we get some more Enoch, and he doesn't turn into a Phasma. That's like, you get this character that is really cool looking and lasts like 15 minutes of a movie.
well, I mean, I think it's no, I don't think it's I don't think it's a coincidence that earlier on that we saw Merrick when he was slayed, he turned to
Yeah.
dust, and
Yes.
I have a feeling these if one of these guys were killed in action, they were turned to dust as well.
Now that you say that, I'm with you. I think you're probably right. I can definitely buy into that. So we also obviously we do get Thrawn finally. And
Which
what did you think of Thrawn?
oh my goodness, goosebumps. Uh, I mean, just the mannerism and just the voice. I mean, he just nails it. But I was reading that he was actually Mickelson was actually the voice that did Admiral Thrawn in the
Right.
animated series. So, I mean, I just perfect. I mean, the goosebumps. He is, just superb. Totally believable. And
And I mean, looking at the animation and then looking at the live action Thrawn, it works really well.
it really does. It really does. What a great job. What a
I'm
great
sure
job.
there will be haters out there that
No,
say there weren't any good, but
they just need to get over it because
they do.
this was an awesome. This was a I up to this point the episodes I believe have gotten better and better,
Oh yeah.
and this is going back to what we talked about, folks, is that it's hard to rate an episode because this is one big epic movie as far as I'm
Oh,
concerned.
absolutely.
And in the beginning, I was really apprehensive about the whole Sabine and the force sensitivity,
Yeah.
but I'm starting to really get into it, and I,
Starting to
you
come
know,
around. Speaking of force sensitivity, we have
yes,
to talk about kind of the final reveal.
yes,
Ezra
yes.
is alive.
I, you know, I was kind of surprised. I thought the reaction of seeing each other again would have been a lot more celebratory, more of a celebration.
Yeah.
It was almost kind
I
of
mean,
like
they have a hug, but
they have a hug, but
it's a
it's
little reserved. But I wonder, part of that is, okay, so this is a reading a lot into a scene.
okay.
Okay. Number one, he hasn't seen anybody that wasn't an enemy to him
Mm-hmm.
in a long, long time.
Yeah.
So it may be a little awkward for him just in general to have a person who actually is okay to
Yeah.
walk up to. For Sabine,
Yes.
I mean, he literally says, I can't wait to get home.
Yeah.
And Sabine has this look of, oh, I can't tell him.
Well, it's like, can you please let me just be, happy to see you. Let me have this moment.
Yeah, I
Um,
think for her, the it's not celebratory is because she knows she really,
the means of doing,
yeah, how
yeah,
she got there,
how she got
how she
there.
found him is super problematic.
And I think
And
Ezra, I think
in her
Ezra would
brain
be,
right
yeah,
now, I think she has no expectations of how they would ever get home.
yeah, yeah.
Because
Well,
from one thing
yeah,
I've seen, or maybe I'm wrong about this, but just watching this so far, and I haven't watched enough of Rebels to know, it doesn't feel like Sabine ever has a plan.
yeah,
She just goes and does.
yes, yeah,
And I think this is one of those. She just went, and now Ezra thinks they're going to hop on a starship and fly
yeah.
home, and that ain't happening.
No, and I don't think and you know, I think if Ezra found out what Sabine had sacrificed to
Mm.
get to him, I think he would. I don't think he would be happy with it. I think
I wonder if we will get to see that or not.
yeah. I wonder if that's going to happen because I think we're going to have it where I have a feeling that what's going to happen is you're going to have Thrawn
Hmm.
and they will take off in the starship and
Yeah.
somehow. And you notice that starship, it's really beaten up. I mean, at the scene where you
Yes.
see it, you can tell that it is
Oh
taken.
yeah. I don't know if
Yeah, I
I
think
don't know
it's
if you can see
the
it in this one.
yeah, it's the Crimea. I think it's the Chimaera.
Yeah, I
The
don't think
Ch-
I've got a good picture of it, but
yeah,
yeah,
but
when you see it close up, it's like
yeah,
there are
it's
pieces missing.
yeah,
This ship has not been
fair,
gone
yeah.
well.
Has not gone well. And I think the only reason that Thrawn has survived, and again, I go back to I totally believe this is the dawn of the dead, is he owes a lot to the Night Sisters,
Yeah, I
and
think
from
so.
my understanding, the Sisters are. Unless I saw something wrong in my notes, I believe they are wanting to leave with Thrawn, from my
That's what I
understanding.
gathered as well, which I thought was a little interesting. I'm not sure what they see, uh, what what uh, what benefit they see,
Yeah,
but yeah, they definitely appear to be going with Thrawn.
yeah.
So there's some plan there. Whether their plan is the same as Thrawn's plan, I'm not
Well,
sure.
and it makes me wonder if they sense and they feel the same thing as Balin does, and but to them it's like we better get out of here. Where Balin is going,
Oh,
I
where
sense something
Balin's
strong. It's pulling
Balin
me
feels
in,
like there's something that can save us, and the
save
Night
us.
Sisters think it's something
Thinking,
that's going to destroy us.
yeah, because
That's an interesting idea.
they have no love for the Jedi, even if you're a
No.
former Jedi, anything to do with the Jedi whatsoever. And so, far as they're concerned, they want they are very fearful of the Jedi,
Yeah.
as we can tell throughout this. There's a couple of things, going back to, my comment about, the soldiers, being the undead. And there was if you realize when you first saw Thrawn walking, he was walking through his troops, Enoch was speaking to them in some alien language.
Mhm.
And and I don't know if it's the language of Peridia or perhaps I don't know, but they've had this chant, this eerie chant,
Mhm.
and treating Thrawn as if he's some deity. And so there's this worshiping of Thrawn, and if you hear that scene, it was almost like this very eerie sound of chanting Thrawn,
Yeah.
Thrawn, Thrawn, and so you have that all going on, and there was one scene, I think Morgan Elizabeth tells Thrawn that she's been to the catacombs to inspect them and mentioned that there is more cargo there than expected. So this cargo is
Mm,
down in some catacombs, which what do you
yeah.
keep down in catacombs? You keep, there's the bodies, there
Yeah.
is tomb basically. So I don't know if it's almost the title, is Thrawn's army the undead? I mean, it's
Yeah.
almost like is that, because really I think out of all of this, I think that's really the next question for me. And I think there's
Yeah.
some people out there seeing the same thing is, so are we talking about the army of the dead and we're seeing these witches with Thrawn and it's a supernatural army against the Republic?
Mm.
So
I'm with you. My big thing was I wanted to see Balin have a connection with Sabine and
yes,
kind of train her and have Shin feel like she was being replaced. I don't think we're going there at this point. I don't feel
no,
like that is a thing now.
no,
I almost feel like there was some build up tension between Sabine and Shin that
mm-hmm,
isn't we're just not going to see that story. That's
yeah,
just like they built something up and then they decided not to do it. Little disappointed, but I'm okay with that. Now I want to know, like, I'm with you. I think this could be an army of the undead, and what can Thrawn do in a different galaxy? In the main Star Wars galaxy,
yeah.
with a you know the ability to bring all of his soldiers back.
There was one scene with Balin and Shin when they were talking, and I've never heard this before, but Balin, says that Ezra comes from a breed of Boken Jedi trained in the
Yes,
wild after the temple fell. And Shin said, like me, and this is what I was talking about earlier. He says, no,
right.
he was trained as a Jedi. Um, you know, and I trained you. I'm training you for something better.
Yeah,
So that, but yeah, Boken, and I was gonna search that Boken Jedi, and I don't. Forgive me, I don't know what that term means.
I wasn't familiar with it either, and I didn't look it up.
Yeah, so let's see here. I just since we did bring it up, I like to see what Boken means. Of course, that's not going to work in my last pass. So let's see.
Boken Jedi,
Boken is a Japanese wooden sword used
right?
for training.
Which
Okay.
is so that's a reference to so a Boken is a reference to the sword that Sabine and Ahsoka were practicing with.
Yes. Yes.
But a Boken Jedi is a term used for the fallen Jedi Balin's skull, a term used by him. Um, from what I'm reading here, it looks like this is a phrase coined for this series.
Okay.
Like this may not have been a. I'm not sure if this was a term before that. If it was a term before that,
I've never heard
it's
of it
not
before.
a mainstream term.
This is
Um,
it's yeah, Boken. It almost has this Japanese samurai feel, which is a Japanese term.
yeah.
Like you said, it's a wooden sword, but I don't know as far as the Jedi term meaning period of Dharma. Da, 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 da. So anyway, I don't want to get into all of that, but yeah, I saw that and Boken. I didn't know what that was, but now that we took a look at it, it's a Japanese sword. But yeah, so what do you think we're going to see in the next episode? What are we looking at? I mean, we still have Balin and Shin. They're
Hmm.
after, they're falling behind Sabine, and of course Ezra is now with Sabine, and so something's going to play out there. We have Ahsoka and Piang, Yin Yang, whatever, Yin Yang,
Yeah.
Ding Dong. Okay, you know they're you know they're arriving to see if they can
Mhm.
save Sabine and Ezra in their minds if he's
Right.
there. So we have that going on, and then do you think that when they come that Thrawn will still be there and they'll still be trying to load up his Star Destroyer, or do you think he's going to leave, or do you think the fight's going to be there on that planet versus them coming back? Is it going to be one of the things that we're going to foil them? We're going to foil the whole plan of leaving that planet.
That's a possibility, but I feel like we are still going to get a big cliffhanger at the end of this series.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But now I'm feeling more like the cliffhanger is Thrawn finally arriving back in the other galaxy.
And I can see
So
that.
I think maybe they're going to delay him,
Yeah.
but I don't think they're going to defeat him here.
Yeah.
I think my big question is, like, it sounds like Thrawn has no love lost for Balin or Shin.
No.
He could care less.
Yeah.
If it's time to leave, he's going to leave, and he will leave them there.
Yeah.
He only has interest in Ahsoka in so far as I need to know enough to be able to defeat her.
Yes.
If she comes into play.
Yes.
So I think his sole focus is going to be on leaving.
Yeah.
I think, and he said he sent, what did he say? He sent two battalions, or he
Two
sent
squads or something
two
like that.
squads after to follow Balin and Shin. So in my brain, that means, hey, let Balin and Shin and Ezra and Sabine fight it out. And then when they're done, you finish off whatever's left.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what his order was.
I'm sure it is.
It's a little unclear as to
Yeah.
what the purpose of the squads was,
Yeah.
unless it's to mop up the rest.
Exactly.
So, but I think that's where we're going to go. I'm not sure if they're going to even make it back to the ship. If
Probably
they make
not.
it back to the ship, it will be, just as it's taking off, or it will be, one of these, they have a battle, but then they get, somehow they get knocked out of the ship so that the ship can take off without them. I feel like they're going to take the space whales back. Probably
so. And, I don't know how the thing with Balin is going to, who knows the situation on that, because he has no intentions going back to the ship himself. I mean, he's out there finding the source of what's calling him. He's looking for something else. And so, I mean, they're going to have to take the whales back again, because if the ship leaves, that's the only way as Ahsoka and the crew will be able to go back. But now are the whales coming there to die?
That was my question. I was like,
the whales coming there to die?
If Thrawn is correct and the whales only come there to die, then what, do they have to ride some young whales to go back?
Well, and I mean, do they give birth there? And then
that's what I had gathered from some other things that had been said earlier.
Yeah.
That this is where the whales originate.
Yeah.
But now Thrawn is saying this is where they terminate as well. So I don't know. She might. They may have to. They may have to saddle up a couple of whales and to ride their spaceship back with them.
So, folks, what do you think? Is this the Star Wars version of Thrawn of the Dead? You get what I'm going with that.
I get where you're going with that.
Good. Okay, good. Or is it something else? And just, put your comments below. Let us know what you think. Put your comments down. What do you think Balin is looking for? Just like the U2, I still haven't found what I'm looking for, where Balin is still looking for something out there. And what do you think is going to happen to them? Balin, Shin, and I don't know, Ezra and Sabine. Are they going to end up working together? Are they going to fight each other? Are they going to fight against the undead? Oh, well, if they're the undead squads that go after them, there's so much going on here. So
And
put your
are we going to
comments
see
below.
some
Yeah.
more? Are we going to get to see some more of Ahsoka in the Ahsoka show?
Oh, this is the Ahsoka show. I
Yes.
totally forgot. This is not Thrawn. Oh, this is not Thrawn 1.0 or Sabine 1.0 or whatever.
It would
So
be nice to see some more Ahsoka in this Ahsoka
yes,
show.
yes, I think we will. But we definitely had that last week. So, folks, put your comments on there. Give us a like on the YouTubes. Follow
Absolutely.
us. We're on. You can go to youtube.com/speakingnerdy. Go there and then like, subscribe, and be a part of what's going on. We also have a Facebook channel as well, Speaking Nerdy Podcast Facebook page, and we have a group. And just if you want to join the group, you just have to ask some questions, and we have some great moderators that'll let you come in. We also have our website, speakingnerdy.com, where there you can get, of course, you can get into our videos. It takes you to YouTube, or you can listen to our audio podcast from any podcast venue that you enjoy listening to. So anyway, we got, I have nothing else. Is there anything else that you have going on that you, in your thought, any great wisdom you want to leave for the viewers out there or the listeners?
No, I don't have anything else, my friend.
Okay. Well,
I'm excited
again,
for next week.
This is really, and I like how we'd have 2 more episodes, because I feel like we're set up for hopefully for some good conclusions. But
Yeah.
anyway, catch us again. We'll be on next Friday, so be sure you watch Ahsoka on Wednesday so you can join the show and not be spoiled. And I think that's good. Let's kick it off.
This has been the Speaking Nerdy podcast with your host, Mr. Mike Shillay.
And my good friend and compadre, Ricky Pope. Well, gotta watch for the undead. Halloween is coming, so
I mean,
that could be it.